Well, welcome back. Now we're going to be talking about conversations, and this can be somewhat confusing and complex, so we're going to go step by step so that you can be able to role play and your students can get engaged and involved in a conversation. And remember that it's important that your students are standing up and involved and engaged. Now, a theme picture, as we just said, is not to be used for a teaching tool, but only as a means to discover the strength of your English language students and to help them warm up, start thinking in English, and to get them prepared for the theme and now the conversation. The conversation will be typical conversations that they will hear on the street or hear in stores, and you want them to be able to know and relate to that. Now, if you turn into the front of your book to Roman numeral 3 on how to teach a lesson, I want you to follow along on the section entitled Conversations. Conversations has to be relevant. They have to be typical. They have to be dialogues that students will hear either on the internet or on the street in a typical and normal fashion. So it's important that you be able to teach it so that they can get up and interact with one another. Now, to begin with, you will need 2 index cards or pieces of paper, one marked with an A and another marked with a B. The lead teacher usually typically is the A, and the partner is B. And I've asked Jacinda now to come in to be B. Now, it is important that we do not exchange cards. Jacinda will always be B, and I will always be A. So as we move down the 5 steps of teaching a conversation, Jacinda will help all the students with the B part, and I will be helping the students with the A part. So don't exchange cards. There are 5 important steps in demonstrating a conversation. The first step is that you have to role play and demonstrate what is being said in a very authentic and expressive way. You don't want to be mechanical. You don't want to be dreary-eyed. You want to be really a conversation using gestures and shaking hands and everything. And we're going to demonstrate a little bit of how to do that first conversation. Hi, how are you? Fine, thanks, and you? Fine, thanks. Okay? So let's watch and see how we do it. So first of all, you always start by saying, please listen. So your students are paying attention to you. And then you role play it at least 3 times. So here we go. Please listen. Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Fine, thanks. Please listen. Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Fine, thanks. Do a 3rd time. So you go through that exchange and you do it very naturally. Don't lose the energy. The students will just be sitting and watching and listening to gain the understanding of what is being said. So if you have a complex phrase or a line in your conversation, the role playing will demonstrate to them the meaning of the conversation. Now you do that about 3 times, and then after 3 times of acting it out, and your adult students will see, then your partner and you will turn and then you will say the same phrase again by saying, please listen. Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Fine, thanks. And then you do that 2 or 3 more times. Then your students can be able to see how you are forming the sounds in your mouth, and they will be able to hear and detect the sounds of each of the lines. So you do that 3 or 4 times. That's basically step 1. Now, step 2 now is that you have to teach your students each line of the conversation. And so the lead teacher, A, says, please listen. Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Please repeat. And then your students will repeat. Hi, how are you? And he goes through model, repeat, solo. Hi, how are you? Then Jacinda now then would be teaching part B.
Fine, thanks. And you? Fine, thanks. And you? Fine, thanks. and you?
Good. And then she will ask the students to repeat what she had just said, and then each student will solo, fine, thanks, and you. And then you as the lead teacher on the A part will come back and say, please listen, fine, thanks, fine, thanks. And so they're watching how you form the TH sound, because a lot of languages do not have TH. So you will have to be able to share that sound. Fine, thanks. Go through the model repeat solo the same way. And then that's the end of really step 2. But before you go to step 3, here's an important thing to do. Because you have broken the sentences down into the parts and each student has learned each part, each line, you need to go back and sort of put it back together. So I call this sort of a rehearsal for step 3. So then you will have your students say, please listen, and then you and your partner will do the conversation again, gestures and all. Okay? And then once that is, then you go to step 3. Step 3 now is that Jacinda will then step behind one of the students. And then I, as the lead teacher, then will initiate the conversation, and Jacinda will prompt the student to answer. So whoever your partner is will then be a prompter and help that student. This is why it's important that your students are standing and not sitting. You don't greet people sitting down. So then you go step by step. So Jacinda, or your partner, will then give the B card to the next student and to the next student. And you would each go around greeting and responding to, hi, how are you? Once that's step 3, then step 4 is then the lead teacher now will get behind the student and help the student initiate, hi, how are you? And then your partner will stand in front of them and respond, fine, thanks, and you. And that's step 4. And you go through model, repeat, solo, and just go right through and make sure each of your students is able to respond correctly. And you prompt them when necessary. Then the next step is what we call a chain drill. And a chain drill is that your partner will be behind one student with the B card, and the student will be holding the B card. And you as the lead teacher then will begin by saying, hi, how are you? They will respond by saying, fine, thanks. And you will respond, fine, thanks. And then that student will hand the B card to the next student, and you give the A card to that one student. Then student A will say to student B, and they will go through the conversation, and each chain drill, and that's what it really means, is that they will each have an opportunity to play the role of both A and B in the conversation. And once they get through the chain drill, then you ask your students and your partners or whoever else may be in the room, in your class, to be able to get up and say, and greet one another. So you're mixing your students up, and that's why they need to be standing and not sitting. They get up and they mix around, they say, hi, how are you? And you're greeting one another, and you're just having a great time and having fun. And that's how they greet one another. And if you are in an English-speaking country where many types of greetings are being done, you can use different greetings like, hi, how are you? Or how's it going? Or some other greeting that may be familiar with you. It's really important that you do a couple things. First of all, remember, don't change cards. She will always be B, your partner will be B, and you will be A. Have fun. Relax. It's so important to help them enjoy what you're doing with a conversation. Remember to go through the 5 steps. Model, repeat, solo. Absolutely critical at this point to be able to teach each of your lines. Now, let's take a minute and let's watch a class that's teaching some conversations, and then it'll be your turn to teach a conversation with your students.